Welcome to the legal system. This is going to be a review of the legal system in the United States. We have three branches of government. We have the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. The legislative branch is made up of Congress and government agencies. Law made by this branch of government is called statutory or legislative law. This is where you have your senators and your representatives. The executive branch is the President of the United States, is the head of the executive branch. This branch includes the Vice President, cabinet members, state governors, and state and federal administrative agencies. The administrative agencies are a governmental body responsible for implementing and enforcing a particular law passed by the legislature. Rules and regulations made by the executive branch are called administrative laws. And the judicial branch is the court system. Courts hear cases that challenge or require explanation of the law. We have federal courts and state courts. The different court levels, we have trial courts, appellate courts, and supreme courts. Important things to remember in lawsuits are the different roles of the court system. We have the plaintiff, who is the person who is making the lawsuit. The defendant is the person who the lawsuit is against. And most of these lawsuits have statutes of limitations, which means they have to be done within a certain period of time. An example of a lawsuit would be if you responded to a patient's residence and they felt that you performed inadequate care on them for whatever reason, or maybe on their family members. They may decide to sue you, the agency, and a variety of other people. In that case, the plaintiff would be the patient or the patient's family. The defendants would be you, as well as the agency that you work for. Criminal law is an area of the law which the federal, state, and local government prosecutes individuals on behalf of society for violating laws to safeguard society. These can be punishable by a variety of different measures: fines, imprisonment, probation, community service. There's many, many different ways that criminal law can be punished. In civil law, a branch of law that deals with complaints by individuals or organizations against a defendant for an illegal act or wrongdoing, otherwise known as tort. The steps in a lawsuit include an incident occurs, and an investigation is conducted by the plaintiff's representative, and the complaint is filed in court and served onto the defendant, and the complaint is answered by the defendant. Next phase would be discovery, where both parties have to release the information that they have available. Then you have depositions, which are oral depositions, which is a statement made by both parties, and interrogatives, which are written. And then you have documents that are gathered, include patient records and pre-hospital care reports. It's absolutely imperative to remember, and we'll get into this a little more when we get into documentation, the pre-hospital care reports are legal documents. Pre-hospital care reports are the run sheets that you fill out on every single patient, and these are legal documents that can be subpoenaed. The next phase will be pre-trial conference, where it narrows the issues to be decided during the trial. Attempts to persuade the attorneys to settle their case. Many lawsuits end in the pre-trial conference, either by insurers and the plaintiff some area there. Steps in a lawsuit include if the next phase will be the trial is conducted, the decision is handed down by the judge or the jury, and the decision may be appealed. Scope of practice. We've discussed this, I believe, in Chapter 1. Scope of practice is the emergency care and skill an EMT is legally allowed and expected to perform when necessary, also called the scope of care. Things that would be in the EMT basic scope of practice includes spinal immobilization, administration of specific drugs such as epi for anaphylaxis or aspirin for chest pain, nitro for chest pain, glucose for diabetic emergencies. However, there are things that are beyond the EMT scope of practice, which include paramedic skills such as intubation, IV access. Scope of practice may be modified by using standard orders or protocols. Kentucky has a state protocol which many services have adopted, and all protocols must be approved by the Kentucky Board of Emergency Medical Services and by the medical director for K-beams, which is Dr. Timothy Price. Standards of care. You are expected to provide the same standard of care in an emergency as another EMT with similar training and experience in similar circumstances. Which means, again, if a patient is having shortness of breath in Monticello, they're expected to receive the same treatment as they would in Covington, Kentucky, or Bowling Green, or Richmond, or Pikeville.